things, my friends. Bigfoot witnesses are credible, and I can prove it. First, you ask the serial Bigfoot debunker these two questions. Do people always lie? Do people always hallucinate? Yes or no? Don't let them drag you into some other argument. Don't let them move the goalpost. Do people always lie? Do people always hallucinate? I'm going to provide you with some links in the bottom bar to some studies that were based on peer-reviewed, experiments where they quantified the percentage of people that lie and the percentage of people that hallucinate. Roughly 10 to 12.7% of the population will at some point experience an hallucination. And about 25% of the population lie a lot. So 75% of the people are very truthful the majority of the time, most of the time. What this means is at least 67% of the people reporting Sasquatch are telling the truth and they're not hallucinating. The Bigfoot serial debunkers will say this over and over again. They can say it until they're blue in the face. It's incorrect. It's not correct. They usually follow up by, well, how do you explain that Bigfoot is magic? How do you explain this? How is this? Why is this? As if it's our responsibility to provide them with the answers. I've seen two of these creatures. I was not hallucinating either time, and I'm not fabricating the story. And one of the times that I saw it, Lady K saw it too. We both saw the same phenomenon. It's pretty unlikely that we were both hallucinating. And I've hallucinated before when I was on Out of the Wild in Venezuela, where I lost 41 pounds in 26 days. I would hallucinate. I would have waking dreams. I would see spots. But I knew I was hallucinating. I knew my perception of reality was compromised. A good portion of the time when people hallucinate, they know they're hallucinating. It's not like you don't know you're hallucinating. Now they'll try to tell you that out of the 67% of people that are not hallucinating and telling you the truth, they're confused. It's just a bear. They don't know what they saw. Once again, this is not true. A good proportion of the eyewitness accounts are multiple witnesses, which will have very consistent reports that collaborate each other. It's important, if you're debating these nitwits, to stay focused, because they'll do shenanigans. You have to ask yourself, why would people that do not believe a subject matter is real, why would they be so vested in it and waste so much time being keyboard warriors? There has to be an explanation for everything. It's got to be explainable. All the tracks are fakes and hoaxes and double bear tracks. All the witnesses are confused, lying, or hallucinating. And when you force them into a corner and you establish with these links I'm provided down below that something along the line better than 60%, 65%, 67% of the eyewitnesses, according to the science of statistics and psychology, they have to be telling the truth and not hallucinating. You know what's interesting with the Bigfoot serial debunkers? Almost to a fault, they are suffering under the Dunning-Kruger effect. Now, the Dunning-Kruger effect was established by a couple of psychiatrists, and basically it states that the less you know about a subject matter, the more likely you are to consider yourself an expert in it. And that's pretty true. Before I became a biologist, I thought I knew a lot about animals and a lot about the environment until I studied and got my degree in biology, and I realized I didn't know that much. I didn't know nearly, a tenth of what I thought I knew. And when I first got interested in Sasquatch like 10 years ago, I was making fun of I was kind of insulting the eyewitnesses because Sasquatch couldn't possibly be real. Couldn't be real. That was where I was coming from. I wasn't even investing any time into investigating the actual phenomenon. I was just feeling smug and superior by debating the issues with people that knew way more about it than me because they had seen it, they had experienced the creature. You know, I would encourage any of these serial debunkers, look in your area, find somebody that is claiming to have, you know, the phenomenon present and engaging them. Go there. That was one of the things that turned me around. I was a Bigfoot serial debunker, and I went and I hung out with Dallas and Wayne, who even Tom Biscotti made fun of because he thought they were full of it. And imagine my surprise when a whole series of strange, unexplainable phenomenon occurred while I was there with those guys that I couldn't explain. You can't really legitimately claim to have a horse in the race if you're not putting in the groundwork. If you're not willing, if all you're willing to do is be super obsessed with this subject because you're super obsessed with being right, even though you're not. You think you're right, and you're so convinced of it that you won't let any data in that would challenge your established confirmation bias. And these serial debunkers love to label the believers as having a confirmation bias. They don't even realize they have one themselves. They'll call the believers, they're a cult. They can't possibly be real. They got to be a cult to believe such nonsense. Not understanding that it's like they're looking in a mirror talking to themselves. They're in the cult of non-believing, of not believing the evidence, what the evidence is pointing us to. Just because you've seen a Sasquatch, you know they're real. You are not obligated to provide these characters with all the explanations. I don't have any answers. I've seen these things twice. I can't explain it. I just know that I wasn't, or I'm pretty sure I wasn't hallucinating, and I know I'm not being mistruthful about it. And I'm quite sure I wasn't hallucinating because during one of the occasions, Lady K saw it too. Statistically, the odds of both of us hallucinating at the same time are incredibly low. So really, all you're left with are people that want to feel superior, that are basically trolling the Bigfoot community and being very insulting to the people that have been unfortunate enough to see one of these things and then to go public with it. And stick to your guns. I think this needs to be addressed. Ask these two questions. Do people always lie? Do people always hallucinate? Provide them with the links down below that show the percentage of people that do lie and do hallucinate. We know what that percentage is. Thus, we have a majority of people that are accurately and honestly reporting on this phenomenon. I think it's a little lazy and condescending of us to ignore that. We should be asking the question. They'll ask you the question. It's not up to us to provide the answers, but these are valid questions worth pursuing. Why do we not have a body? Why do these things seem to be able to turn into vapor? How is it, possible they do all the things that it's reported that they do? How is that possible? What is going on here? The answer is not to turn around and say that there's nothing to it, that it's not real, that it's not a real phenomenon. That's the borders on being childish when faced with the evidence. And like I said, it's degrading and insulting to the people that have seen these things. We don't have the right to be, assuming what these people saw. What gives us that right?